Hey y'all, I want you to picture the person that you hate the most. Maybe it's a specific person, such as a family member or coworker, or maybe it's a group of people, such as a political party, or just someone with different beliefs than you. Now imagine that you ran into that person inside a restaurant. Would you throw insults at them, maybe spit in their food, or would you offer to pay for their meal? If you're anything like me, doing something to help them is probably going to be the last thing you want to do. But if you insult them or spit at them, you might end up being part of the reason they go to hell. You have heard that it was said, "Love your neighbor and hate your enemy." Many of us have heard that verse and thought, of course I'll love my enemies. But for a lot of Christians, those have just become empty words that we don't actually put into practice. We remember to hate the sin, but forget to love the sinner. And this creates a stereotype that Christians are hateful, bigoted people. Consider for a moment the Westboro Baptist Church. Despite the fact that they are Christians, their name has become synonymous with hate. The URL for their website is literally God hates thanks, a slur for gay people. They've had protests at military funerals and at gay pride events where they shout out God hates. They even tried to protest at Tim McLean's funeral in 2008, saying his brutal murder was God's punishment for Canada's laws allowing gay marriage, abortion, and divorce and remarriage. The Westboro Baptist Church is a hate group, despite the fact that they claim to be Christians. Imagine being a gay or lesbian person whose first interaction with a Christian is at a Westboro Baptist Church protest, where they keep shouting, God hates. That's not a very welcoming message, and it's not very likely to lead them to Christ. Preaching and spreading the gospel, whether in person or on YouTube, can be effective ways of leading someone to Christ. But our actions are often more powerful, whether they lead someone to Christ or push them away. I'm willing to bet that most of us are familiar with the parable of the Good Samaritan. Even if you're not a Christian, the term Good Samaritan has become a common phrase describing someone who goes out of their way to help a stranger. If you need a refresher, here's what the parable says. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." The term Good Samaritan has become so common that I think a lot of us forget just how powerful this parable is. To the Jewish people at that time, a Samaritan was a hated foreigner. To put that in modern terms, imagine that you're the one laying on the side of the road. You're barely conscious when you see a pastor or local minister walk straight past you without offering to help. Then you see a person wearing a "What Would Jesus Do" t-shirt make eye contact with you before they turn around and go the other way. And finally, you see a man walk up to you, and he helps you get into his car and drives you to the hospital. At the hospital, this man identifies himself as a member of the Iranian government and offers to pay for your medical expenses. Your opinion of this man and his culture might go up, while your opinion of the pastor or the Christian might go down. Now imagine that it's an atheist laying on the side of the road, and you walk by and you decide to help them. Much like the Good Samaritan, you help them up, get them to the hospital, and pay for the medical care. When the atheist wakes up, they ask why you helped them. You tell them about your faith and how you want to spread God's grace and goodness to everyone you meet. Sure, maybe your actions won't change their faith, but at least you'll give them a positive image of what a Christian is. And now, they might be more receptive to the good news in the future. This is important when we're interacting with our friends, family, and even other Christians. But it's even more important when we're interacting with non-believers and our enemies. People who would love to have something bad to say about us. You've probably heard the saying that the best defense is a good offense. Well, the best defense against criticisms against the church is to have a good offense of love. Show love in everything you do. I know that's not always easy. It's definitely something I struggle with. But it's well worth the effort so that we can be a beacon leading people to Christ rather than a riptide pulling them away. I hope you enjoyed this video. I post a new devotional every week. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. Have a great week.